Okay, okay.
Will you call to order? Councilmember Bowman Anderson. Here. Councilmember Chapman. Here. Councilmember Clayton. Here. Deputy Mayor Quinn. Here. Mayor Moore.
Here.
We stand for a silent prayer over the flag. We will now salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As the flag of the United States, Chapter 2, Field 1975, as the notice has been brought in the following manner. Name of notice towards the end of the press, the motion is ledger on January 22nd, 2024, and posted on the bulletin board the same date. All notices are on file with the city clerk. This time we're on to special event applications. Now on to items to be presented. We have our presentation from Tristan Rogers for the Asbury Affordable House Club.
Good evening, Council. I'm here to Asbury.
You guys are talking a little bit. You here?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Right now, I'm here at the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition. And we've talked about some of the things that we've discussed with affordable housing. And there's been questions in the community on what community is affordable housing and how we got to this point. So we just put together a little presentation to tell you what we did as a community organization to create affordable housing in our district. So, if we have any questions afterwards, so let's just go forward. Okay, affordable housing. Our deepest multi-generational economic residential segregation largely comes from exclusionary zoning practices that limit housing opportunities across most of the country's largest metropolitan areas. Exclusionary zoning also significantly contributing to the unprecedented housing crisis in America today. And with disproportionately impacting people of color, lower income people, the effects of residential segregation in our nation's housing crisis will further exacerbate with our strong action against exclusionary zoning. And exclusionary zoning, basically, for anyone in the audience, you know, in this country, we have strongly saw opportunities for people not to get housing, redlining, and other opportunities. And out of that, the state of New Jersey came up with the Mount Laurel Supreme Court judgment that saw exclusionary zoning. So exclusionary zoning also impacts society at large, thorough limitations. Local mobility causing significant slowdown in economic growth, inflated housing prices caused by artificially reducing supply, squeezing out just low-income families, but also the middle class. As the middle class occupies more affordable housing options, lower-income families are pushed out of the housing together, which significantly contributes to gentrification and displacement. In fact, housing costs and low vacancy rate are the biggest predictors of homelessness. Unsurprisingly, this displacement disproportionately affects people of color, Black Americans, Native Americans, the Latino X community, LGBT communities, and more likely to experience homelessness than white Americans, as numbers are disproportionate to the share of the population. At a time when America is facing historic crisis, these discrepancies will only be further exacerbated without strong action against exclusionary. Despite the veneer of racial neutrality, exclusionary zoning is legalized segregation with direct ties to American history of slavery and brutal oppression. It must be eradicated. We are here to have many hope of a truly integrated society that gives more voice to the promise of all Americans being created equal. New Jersey is taking the steps towards dismantling exclusionary zoning to the Mount Laurel Doctrine, one of the most significant and effective interventions to combat residential segregation in the nation. In a landmark Laurel decision named at the Township of Mount Laurel, the New Jersey Supreme Court declared experimental zoning unconstitutional based on general welfare, substantive due process, equal protection, and the vision of the state constitution. That every town in New Jersey has an affirmative obligation for fair share of regional affordable housing. Let me let everybody know that we also in March just passed state legislation with the abbreviation of the Mount Laurel decision because of things that were going on in past situations under different administrations. And we just passed this ordinance, this legislation in March under Murphy, which will decide the fourth round of affordable housing in our state. Fighting displacement, the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition was organized by local community residents in 2017. The mission of the group was to address concerns that had come out of a community forum in 2016 at a local high school. This forum was to survey local residents on issues and concerns. In Asbury Park, the number one issue was affordable housing. After some research, we determined there were the major causes to the decreasing of lack of affordable housing in Asbury Park. These are the issues that we came out. 3,000 new housing units were planned to be built in Asbury Park. It is located in the waterfront redevelopment area. A review of the waterfront redevelopment agreement determined no affordable housing were included in the redevelopment agreement that was signed in 2002. After destruction of 1,000 units that already existed. Other rental housing in the city privately owned by private owners who were looking to take advantage of increased rent when the market divided, which made housing unaffordable for local residents who were low and moderate residents. And I don't know if anyone looked at the 2020 census, 30% of minorities were pushed out. This is a fact inside of it. We took them out. Lastly, the sites for development across the city were not zoned for inclusionary zoning. So we just sat down as a group, we met every Thursday, and we looked at opportunities to address this. And these were the solutions we presented to the council. Asbury Park Coalition, Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition worked along with the city council to create an inclusionary zoning ordinance. Except for the waterfront redevelopment areas were zoned to create affordable housing. This was a 3-year process with hearings and meetings. The next task was rent control, which went through a referendum, and the city council passed that rent control ordinance. Because there was no thought out plan, Asbury Park worked to come up with a plan that would increase diversity, control the high cost of housing for those who live in this community. All those lives that would not be pushed out. So, in all, basically, what we saw were issues in 2017. Some of you guys were at that meeting in the survey that we had. We knew there was an opportunity, and we wanted to straighten, or at least course correct, the city, because we were losing a lot of residents. We were losing artists, we were losing the Latino community, the Black community. So this made a challenge for us to get this done. So what we've done is just presented what we've been doing for the last couple of years to unify this community. And unify takes sacrifice and opportunity. So I just wanted to let everyone know that these are the things that we started to address and work with the city on. Derek, my partner, will be talking about some of the numbers in the county and what opportunities and losses that we have there. So, thank you.
Tracy, just read your name. Okay, Lisa, that's my daughter. Lisa.
Sorry, everybody. All right, well, greetings, everyone. I did have a PowerPoint here for everyone that I'm going to go over quicker. I tested this as about 11 minutes, so hopefully that's right on time. But first of all, I just wanted to introduce myself, Derek Bloom. I'm the Social Justice Director at Trinity Church and also one of the founders of the Monmouth Housing Coalition. I wanted to start out by thanking the council. Starting in 2017, we worked together, and I think this country and democracy, there's a lot of interesting things happening on in this country right now, but when I think of democracy, and I think of how, at least the four of you, potentially you came a little bit later, really stood up for affordable housing. And we met for almost 5 years on and off and on and off. And, you're a city council that really cares about everyone in this community, the wealthy, the low income, the LGBTQ community. So it's just been an honor to work with you and create affordable housing and rent control and really see a democratic process happen between the city government and the people. So thank you so much. The Monmouth Housing Coalition, I just wanted to tell people a little bit about it. Our vision is we seek to build a large, diverse coalition of community members, spiritual institutions, and nonprofits to advocate for policies and initiatives that uphold the values of housing justice and equity. Our vision is for all residents of Monmouth County, New Jersey to live in safe, high, and quality affordable housing. Our objectives are sevenfold. 1, show up to municipal meetings to support affordable housing initiatives. 2, to enforce and push municipalities to honor their fair share agreements for affordable housing. 3, encourage spiritual institutions and nonprofits to come up together to consider building their own affordable housing on their properties and beyond, and to organize and advocate for Monmouth County to create more affordable housing. To increase homeownership with low-income families and people of color. 6, to educate ourselves and others about racial and economic injustices and how they intersect with housing justice. And finally, to train and empower community members to organize for housing justice in our own context. And the Monmouth Housing Coalition really sees housing as a human right along with food and water. And one of the ways to make this human right possible is to create affordable housing. And affordable housing is based off of generally defined as housing in which the occupant is paying no more than 30% of their gross income for housing costs, including utilities. And this leaves room for food, for travel, for communication, for leisure time, because everyone needs leisure. But unfortunately, there's a large amount of people in this community paying 50% of what they make just to cover rent. I also do a lot of social work and work with people experiencing homelessness and low-income people. And we get almost 30 to 40 calls a week in need of housing. And the boarding homes that are in our town, unfortunately, I would say almost 90% of people's checks are taken in to see these boarding homes, which are not the greatest quality. So rent is already really high in Asbury Park, and quite frankly, it's so high that certain low-income families and working class folks cannot pay it as is. So I just want to keep pressing to the council and to the community that affordable housing is so important, and rent control is important. And currently, your all's rent control plan allows landlords to increase rent by 3.5% a year, which goes with economics and seems fair, and also is a way to keep our low-income community members in our community, which most have grown up here all their whole lives and deserve to have a chance to live in their community. And I would say that most people here believe in racial justice. We don't want to judge people by the color of their skin, but racial justice is equated with affordable housing. They can't really be separated. It's a way to actually enact racial justice. And just a brief history lesson for our Black community members, for 260 years was slavery, and about 100 years of Reconstruction, Black folks from the African diaspora were starting to be able to buy property, but they were only able to do it in certain regions and locales, and what was now known as ghettos were created. And unfortunately, all the way to the 50s or 60s, legal redlining was occurring. So banks could literally say to people, oh, we'll give you a loan, but only in this area. And this happened all the way to the 50s or 60s. So when we talk about affordable housing and try to make affordable housing for folks of color, for low-income people, it is a direct act of racial justice. And when I think about beach towns in New Jersey, do we really want to be like all the other beach towns that are not that diverse, income-wise or ethnic-wise? When I walk around Asbury Park, I'm so proud, and I love the diversity. I love that I see Haitian community. I love that I see many people from the African diaspora. I love that I see many people from Central America. I love that we see the LGBTQIA plus community. Our community is beautiful, and the way to keep it diverse is to support affordable housing and rent control. I moved here 9 years ago, and I think the Black population was about 52%, and now I think it's down to 32 to 33%. So people are getting pushed out of our community, and the way to keep them in is affordable housing and rent control. And lastly, before I get to the slideshow, which is quick, artists, servers, teachers are also getting pushed out of Asbury Park. We want people who live in this town to teach our kids, to commune with us and work with us. We need to have affordable housing, and we need to keep rent control so that rent doesn't already go higher than it already is. So I'm going to do a few statistics about Monmouth County. The median household income in this city is $63,461, and in the larger county is $118,194. The city poverty rate here in Asbury is 19.7. The rest of the county is 6.1. So it just gives us more reason. We have more community members that need support and have experienced systemic oppressions to allow them to be in poverty. So we need affordable housing to fight this harder in Asbury than the rest of Monmouth County. What this looks like, you make $100,000, 30% of your check for rent should be $20,000 or $2,500. If you make $35,875. Types of affordable housing: project place-based housing, housing that is subsidized during construction, acquisition, and underwritten so that affordable rents can sustain the property. Also, tenant-based housing voucher programs. Since there's a time constraint, this is a really detailed process of the voucher program, which you all can kind of look at for a little bit if we have to go through questions. But it's federally funded and administered through state or local housing authorities. More project-based housing, the low-income housing tax credits, largest funding source for affordable housing development in our country. Created by tax reform in 1986, and this is exciting, which doesn't always happen in our country. Consistently has bipartisan support as it promotes public-private partnerships, generating income in private industry while creating affordable housing. The equivalent of this is about $10 billion in annual budget authority to issue tax credits for building and housing. Project-based housing, low-income housing tax credits, distributed through New Jersey's housing, mortgage, and finance agencies. I'm not going to get into that. More house-based housing, public housing, normally owned by public housing authorities. A local example in Monmouth County would include Evergreen Terrace and Montgomery Terrace and Red Bank. Income limits vary from development, but are below 80% of the AMI, and residents pay 30% of their income, and the affordable housing places and public housing places here in Asbury are similar. So affordable housing in New Jersey, Tracy mentioned this, the Mount Laurel Doctrine requires all New Jersey municipalities to plan, zone, and take affirmative action to provide realistic opportunities for their fair share of the region's need for affordable housing for low-income and moderate-income people. It is the only constitutional requirement of its kind in the country. Where does this leave us? Navigating the various programs, housing, and resources in New Jersey is a challenge. Despite the Mount Laurel rulings and now the fair share rulings, which I won't get into, but NJ remains one of the most racially segregated states in the country. So again, if we want to care about our city, we need affordable housing to defeat this statistic. We do not want to be the most racially segregated state or city. The segregation patterns are rooted in a history of discrimination, housing practices such as redlining, and the perpetuation of concentrated poverty in urban areas. Critics argue that more aggressive enforcement of the doctrine, Mount Laurel Doctrine's principles, is still needed to meaningfully reduce segregation. And again, to applaud the City Council, you went up and above and beyond for affordable housing, and it was great. Affordable housing needs in New Jersey were negative 276,687 units. We have 10,267 people experiencing homelessness in a first world country. NJ is ranked 7 on the list of least affordable states. This is a pretty unbelievable statistic. So median household wealth, white families 322,500, black families 17,700, and Latino families 26,100. NJ homeownership rates 77% white or European American, black families or African American families 41.7%, Latino families 40.1%. And just a reminder, if I'm still correct, 80% of the units in Asbury are rentals. So it only means about 20% of people in our city own their property. So what can we do? Got 2 or 3 more slides and we'll be done. Get involved with local advocacy groups, the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition, the Monmouth Housing Coalition, join the Fair Share Housing Center, participate in the municipal planning process. Good job, everybody. Support affordable housing development, contact affordable housing developers to learn about opportunities to support their work. Be an advocate for state and federal funding and legislation. Combat NIMBYism and exclusionary attitudes. Spread awareness about affordable housing needs and counteract common myths of, we love affordable housing, but not in our backyard. Educate yourself on the country's history, which I briefly talked about. And if anyone's really interested in a book about affordable housing and the racial divide, The Color of Law is great. And lastly, some more solutions. And this is what the city does, but work with developers to produce affordable housing with incentives whenever opportunities become available. This means planning for new housing that includes a mix of market rate and affordable housing units on site that are vacant and or need redevelopment. Also, incentives often include density, height, other relaxed standards, and or financial. And I noticed that 1201 is on the agenda today, which is the property and field between 4th and 5th on Memorial. And I know that there's a lot of people worried about increasing density in that neighborhood. But unfortunately, developers, if they are able to increase in density, they're able to build more affordable housing units, so it makes it worth it for them. So sometimes density does need to increase in order for us to have a healthy and diverse city and make sure we have affordable housing. And lastly, this is helpful because government nonprofits cannot fix this huge issue as it exists in Asbury Park, much less the country and the state. And everybody, thanks for coming. Thank you for your time. I know not everyone knows the talk, so I appreciate you listening. And I do think we have Mike McNeil from the NAACP to say a few words as well.
And we also, I think, have
Oh, great.
I want to thank Derek, the Asbury Park Affordable Housing Coalition, for doing this. The city really doesn't do a good job on talking about why affordable housing is
important to us, or why we enact certain policies to improve affordable housing. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to lay it out incredibly thoroughly.
Thanks for having us. All of it.
My name is Mike McNeil. My name is Mike McNeil. You up here may not know me, but there's one person up there that does know me. My business has always been in housing. I also sit on the board of Fair Share Housing, and we're the ones that file lawsuits and all that good stuff. But I just want to tell you something that you may not know. That remember when the waterfront started? When they started the waterfront, all that. You know, we talked about affordable housing that they were going to put in and all this other good stuff. Well, meaning we, Bryce, which is the vice president of Solution and probably soon known as STEPS, were contracted by a gentleman by the name of Dr. McComb. And also, I believe that they worked under Larry Fishman, for the name at the time, but I think that's correct, am I right? Right. So, I was involved in it from day one. And what happened was, so I want everybody to understand officially what happened. We were contracted to move the people out. So where we had to move them to was in Newark. The gentleman that worked for me, that hired to move the folks out of this, and move them up into Newark, he came back and he said to me, he says, Mike, he said, this is not what we do. He said, they're relocating these people in a little tiny box and I wouldn't put my dog in. That's how bad it was up there where they wanted to put these people in. So when you talk about, some folks come and say, well, we don't need affordable housing. We need a whole lot of affordable housing. The other part that will always stick with me is that it's called a stone pony. And we had to come down for this meeting down there. And then there had to be hundreds of buses from all over, from New York and everywhere, to support all these people. They were investors. That's what they were. So let's understand what really happened. So they were investors. Myself and Mr. Waters was the president of the NAACP in Lakewood, New Jersey. He came down with me. There was a lady sitting on one of the tables off one of the buses. She was crying. And I mean, ladies and gentlemen, literally crying. And I went over to her and I said, ma'am, what's wrong? She says, I feel sorry for what we're about to do to these people. That's what she said. And so that haunt and bothered me till this day when I hear this conflict about, building some affordable housing. Some people don't think that we need affordable housing. But ladies and gentlemen, we really do need affordable housing. Don't judge the affordable housing by looking at, places where they make these commercials with these bombed out places up in, whether it's in Newark or wherever, they make it look so bad that everybody gets scared. So don't pay attention to that. But I truly want to say, from the bottom of my heart, is that we have to come together and we have to do the right thing. I know there's probably some people in here and they feel that, we don't want affordable housing in our part of the neighborhood. But it's not, like, a lot of times where we're building the affordable housing is that it's in a place where not only is it affordable there, but a lot of times there's, regular housing, commercial. And those housing go for different prices. Once a person, get into a house and get educated, that's the key part. And that's one of the things that we failed to do when we actually started this whole project way back in the day. We failed to do the educational piece. People were more concerned about, buying up the property and doing all that stuff, but not doing the right thing. So what I'm saying to you today, saying to some of the folks that are out in the audience, give some folks a chance, an opportunity to really live. I would definitely not like to see them live like some of the places that I've seen, not here, but other places as I travel through the state, where, you feel so bad that I'm quite sure a lot of them read about renter's hell and all of that type of stuff. You know, up in Newark, we're the ones who solve that problem with renter's hell by bringing a young lady down here, giving her a home, giving her a Section 8 voucher, and that changed her whole life. So I'm trying to say to you that please give folks an opportunity to live. That's all I'm saying to you. I know that, you know, some people sit in here, you know, you have investments and, you know, and you think that it's gonna be bad. I think that it'll be the other way around if we don't do the right thing. I think that that's gonna become bad. I'm going to most likely appoint, you know, someone to take a look at, you know, what's going on, you know, down here. We have a board meeting tomorrow in Cherry Hill, Fair Housing, and I don't want to talk about this. I believe that you folks are gonna do the right thing. I think that the folks in the audience, some of them are probably gonna eventually take a look at things and, want to do the right thing too. So it's very important that we move together and we do the right thing. Thank you. Thank you. Good job.
Hello, everyone, and I'm sorry for everybody that's coming back. I'm Terry Olstein. I work for Coastal Habitat for Humanity. I think most people know that Coastal Habitat for Humanity supports southern Monmouth County. And Amy actually asked me if I would come talk, give a little bit about some of the things we're seeing. One of the things just to note that Habitat's vision is that there is to have a world where everyone has a decent place to live, building strength, stability, and self-reliance. So the importance of homeownership. So providing them the stability so that people can grow in other parts of their lives. What we're seeing right now is obviously we've talked about inflation, and we're also seeing a severe lack of inventory. Again, this is what coastal sees, so it's southern Monmouth County, probably elsewhere. Just a couple of notes for everybody. I run the homeowner selection for Coastal Habitat for Humanity, and our last homeowner selection we did, which was 6 months ago, for a home in southern Monmouth County, we had 92 applicants. We have, of them, over 60 met the income guidelines for being able to afford an affordable home. This was a diverse population. It was represented all different types of people. We had 42 people show enough interest to attend a homeowner seminar. And of these, we were able to provide one home. So thank God having to tell all of those other people that they're going to try again. One of the other things that happened last week was I get about 2 or 3 calls out of the week asking about the process. This delightful, wonderful person called me and said she actually already had a pre-approved loan for $175,000, but couldn't find anybody that could help her that had an available home for her with a pre-approved loan. So it's just a little bit about the opportunity and why there is just the increase of need. And I want to add one thing to Derek's presentation. Not only for everything to participate, people should donate land. We could build affordable housing on land. Donate it to nonprofits like Habitat for Humanity. We'll build. We have construction people. So anything anybody can do to help, there's creative ways to help. But we really need to do something to help our community.
Good job.
Thank you.
I'd like to say one more thing. We support this council with 3,000 units that are being built in the waterfront. And we want to challenge our waterfront redeveloper to understand that he's a partner in the city. And we should put our voices together to ask him to commit to creating affordable housing in the waterfront area. That's something the partner does. That's what a person who's committed to our community does. And we would love to support you asking that request to them, because they're committed to almost 3,000 units of housing that residents in this community will not be able to. Thank you.
haven't been here before. We're gonna do a couple minutes of the council things, and then we move on to the public portion. So the public may have questions for you, so Tracy, Derek, Asbury, if you want to stay around in case somebody has a specific question for you. So we'll do it. Thank you. Good.
We're now in matters from city council, Councilmember Rodriguez.
Just wanted to say, good evening. Also, the women's mentoring program's been on hiatus. A lot of things have been going on, so we will reconvene in September and make the announcement in August. Thank you.
Councilmember Jackson.
So I just want to let everyone know that Music Mondays in Springwood Park begins on July 1st and will run every Monday for the summer. It's free, come on out and hear some great music.
Councilmember Ray. Good evening, I just have thank you. Mayor Quinn. Mayor Moore.
Is the schedule up on the website? Okay, I think that.
I hope so.
Okay, but
Hope we'll get it up on the city calendar.
it's announced.
It's announced.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Matters from city manager.
Nothing.
Matters from city attorney. Round of public participation, may I have a motion to read the public?
Second.
All in favor? Public participation portion is now open. Any member of the public who wishes to speak, please use the microphone, state your name and address for the record. There will be agreed with a time limit for each speaker, name your name and address for the record.
Sorry. Hi, my name is Carrie Bush. I'm 500 Deer Lake Drive. I just want to give everybody a mini history lesson. I don't want to sound like Warner Baumgartner, but I was at every single redevelopment planning meeting for the waterfront redevelopment, and we were told there was going to be we were told there was going to be affordable housing in the plan, and it was not put in the plan. So I'm sorry, sir, I've never seen you at any of those meetings. I didn't see you at any of those meetings, or every single one. So, well, the reason why I'm saying that is because, we were very, very hurt as a community watching people get relocated from the waterfront. I do appreciate Tracy coming to the table and asking to reopen that issue of 3,000, I think it's more than 3,000 units, I think it's 3,800 units on the waterfront. That would really guarantee us 720. That's the lawsuit we want you to do, Mr. McNeil. Do that lawsuit. The waterfront, get us affordable housing on the redevelopment, in the waterfront redevelopment zone. That's the lawsuit we want you to do. I live on the waterfront. A lot of people that I know that I'm friends with live on the waterfront. And without certain things that we did in our lives, we would have been pushed out too. So I couldn't afford to live where I live now, even to rent where I live now. So do that lawsuit, I'll back you up, okay? I hope that the city council didn't invite the affordable housing folks here tonight, which I'm a member of. I hope they didn't invite them here tonight to kind of convince people to not talk about the 1201 redevelopment and to not fight for what they believe in and for what they want. Because 1201 redevelopment could have easily been 100 or less units and included more affordable housing. As a matter of fact, if you purchase the land for $1 million, which is what the developer did, Asbury Park could have built amazing affordable housing units that would have kept people in this community.
Yes.
So I hope that everybody here that wants to speak on 1201 redevelopment still speaks on 1201. It's your neighborhood. It is going to change the entire character of that neighborhood with that density. So don't be afraid. You're not saying that you don't want affordable housing or that you don't want your neighbors that live next to you to be pushed down in any way. So I'm liberating you like Maya Angelou does, right? Love liberates. I want you to talk and say what you gotta say.
Yep.
So that's all I want to say. I appreciate you. I don't think that that's what your intention was, to quell any kind of conversation, but go for it, guys.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Gary. Alicia Godfrey, 105th Avenue. I am here partly to talk about 1201, but before I get going, I have a lot to say. So I just want to ask, what's the plan to discuss it tonight? Can you answer that within my time frame?
What's what?
What's the plan to discuss 1201 tonight? What is, it's on the agenda?
When it's from the.
Adopt?
Correct.
So this is going to happen after the public comment?
You can talk about it now if you want.
Oh, well, okay,
There
so
will also be a public hearing tonight.
that's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking, okay. My hope is that, and we are applauding the development of 1201, we'd love to see more affordable housing, we want to see density, we want to see people living in our community. I think this is planting a flag to what could be happening all the way down Memorial Drive, making it be a livable part of the city. With that, I would like to, again, I've said this before, I'd like to see the entrance and exit on Memorial Drive. I would also like to see a double two-way bicycle track on the train track side. And I'd like to see the grassy, big, thick grassy area along the sidewalk gone, trees planted, and a wider sidewalk. With that segue, I'd like to also address the equity and justice issue that we're talking about with regard to affordable housing, and kind of segue that into the equitable access and mobility justice issues that we have in the city. Right now, Asbury Park really does prioritize drivers above all road users. Roads and streets in the city are public space, just like parks are. And if most of the users of the public space that we have here is on asphalt, and drivers who are speeding and misbehaving, running stoplights and stop signs running right on red without stopping, all of the above. If I were to ask for a show of hands, I'm sure all of you have experienced something like that, whether you're a driver or a walker or a roller, you've experienced something in the way of bad driver behavior. I would like to urge the city, and you don't have to answer me right now, but I'd like to urge the city to engage Asbury Park Complete Streets Coalition to discuss adopting a Vision Zero policy, which is 0 deaths and injuries by car crashes. I don't have the statistics right now, but across the nation, 40,000 plus people are killed by drivers every year. I don't know, once you see this stuff, you can't unsee it. Once you start to see what's going on in a city like Asbury Park, which I have no background in any of this, but when I was driving and riding a bike, I felt pretty okay out there. Now that I see what's going on, what I understand about urban planning in the last 5 years or so, I've lived here for 10 years, I can't unsee it. We need to change the priorities here. Some of it has to do with signage, some of it has to do with messaging, some of it has to do with education, but most of it has to do with a really bold redesign of our streets to make them safer for everybody.
Matthew Sigmund, 700 Emory Street. Here really for 1201 affordable. I'm a housing provider, so just sort of talk about the housing provider side. Just want to remind everybody, 10, 15 years ago, you could buy things on the west side for $50,000. Just remember all that. Like today it's expensive, yesterday it wasn't. So, you know, we talk now about how it's expensive. Well, yeah, you have the demand to live here, and we don't have the units to supply that demand, so things are expensive. Economics. And, you know, we, by operations, we observe the rent ordinance that we have here. I don't really want to go crazy with that. I think it's working. I think if you had a lower rent, you're staying here, and so on and so forth. I think attacking the waterfront with them, God bless you, we love that. I think that's a arduous task. You know, again, more supply will help lower costs. 1201, I'm the owner of the shopping center Point, Boosterview, Ada's, we redeveloped the shopping center. I'm here on behalf of the tenants. My concern is the parking over at 1201. You're not having more than one per space. And I spoke to people on council, want to make sure that we can work together. And I'm a little confused by 1201 and the Memorial Drive parking is all kind of the same. I mean, at the end of it, can be bifurcated, where you can do things separately. But currently at the shopping center, there's head-on parking. And design it has now is a bike lane, a little buffer, and then head-on parking. Holly's idea of kind of putting it on the railroad tracks, and we discussed that, to be safer, because you're not having cars parking up to a bike lane at the shopping center. So just kind of thawing that out, making sure it's safe and usable for everybody. I love bikes, I use bikes all the time, but does every road need a bike lane? I don't know. I don't know if this is that as well. That's kind of a caveat. And then, yeah, just, sort of understand, as this project gets developed in 24, 36 months, can we sort of earmark and change the parking requirements for the shops at Sunset Point in front? Can we change it later on in case people are parking there and then the businesses are like, we're not having customers park. So again, everyone has their dog in the fight. I'm trying to protect those businesses. I think that shopping center is an important part of our community. It's all local business owners, everybody lives in Asbury, Wanamasa, Ocean, et cetera. So just sort of protecting their interests. I think it's kind of foregone. I don't know how much we can change 1201. I'm also a developer, so I kind of like want to quick get something that I also may want to do down the road and get my own development agreement. But it's great to see the community coming out here and just talking and everyone sharing their ideas and trying to better our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lori. I live off Fifth Avenue. I want to thank you for giving me a chance to speak. Two things I wanted to say. One is that I fully agree with and support what that first woman had said about affordable housing, that entire project could have been affordable housing, and the density could have been less, and somehow, some way, the city of Asbury Park could have stepped up and helped to build that, or habitat for humanity, or whatever. The other thing I wanted to do was ask a question. Is during the hearing, I'm not familiar with a lot of what goes on. This is only my third or fourth meeting. But during the public hearing portion, when we're going to talk about 1201 and all of that, will there be another chance for the public to get up and speak, or is this our only chance?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kathy Bloom. I live on Sunset Avenue. I'd like to register my support for affordable housing in all areas of the city who need it for a well-rounded community. But I'm here tonight to make comments about traffic calming measures. I primarily get around by walking and riding my bike, and to me, walking and riding my bike is some of the best, it's like the most enjoyable part of living at the beach. It's free transportation, it's fun, it's healthy, it's accessible, and it's environmentally friendly. But walking or riding your bike in Asbury Park can also feel like a death trap in many places. I live on Sunset. It's a family and residential neighborhood with wide streets, lots of shade. Now we have a successful restaurant Capper right at the end of Sunset for Wanamasa. We have the excellent shopping center that Mr. Sigmund referred to at Memorial and Sunset, and of course we have the high school. So this is like a model area for walkability and biking, but it feels so dangerous. The number of people driving 10 to 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, the number of people running their contact traffic light right by the school, and not yielding to pedestrians in the crosswalk is astounding. And also, if you drive over that bridge to and from Wanamasa, the road curves, and the speed limit coming from Wanamasa is 35 miles an hour, Asbury is 25, but if someone's driving a mile faster than 25, they can't, it's impossible not to put your car in the bike lane or left of center, depending on which direction you're going. And that is occurring right across from the crosswalk that leads to the Capper restaurant. Anyway, these behaviors are not really that surprising because the roads, specifically the avenues that run east-west, with their current design and striping, they're set up to encourage people to drive fast. If we adjust the infrastructure, we can make it easier for people to obey the rules. And so simple, like I ride around a lot, so the solution that I see is paint the bike lanes green. A painted bike lane is not protected. It's not officially a protected bike lane, but it visually narrows the road, which causes people to drive slower. Another option would be to remove the double yellow line from the middle. Double yellow line means no passing. But when I'm driving down the road and I see a double yellow line, I automatically assume the speed limit is 30 miles, 40 miles an hour or more. A no line or a single line indicates that it's a slower speed zone in a residential neighborhood, and a pedestrian's risk of severe injury and death increases dramatically when a vehicle is driving above 35. I ask you, the next time you're on an east to west avenue that has bike lanes, look down the avenue, notice the striping, and ask yourself, how fast is this road safe to go? And then envision the road, if it had green bike lanes, would that indicate to you that it's a slower speed road? So that's just one of my suggestions.
Thank you, Lynn.
I have
We
more.
want somebody to work with the police department. We met with them earlier in closed exec, and some of the concerns you expressed, especially about cat birds and coming from 1 mile to 35, have to be addressed. We put a sign up on the bridge. We asked for more speed details as far as like, there's too much speeding in Asbury Park on every street, there's no question about it. So anyway, we can stop it, but enforcement's the first start. And we made it perfectly clear, if it costs money, we don't care, do something, because the speeding is out of control. So we're going to look into it.
I do hate to advocate, I cannot advocate for, really for more enforcement, but I will because I don't want to die riding my bike. A better option would be speed cameras, because they're non-discriminatory and,
Speed cameras are against the law.
safer
Yeah.
for drivers.
Nancy Sabino, 1000 Fort Avenue, taking up on that. I was just on the phone with my cousin who lives in Tallahassee, and they have speed cameras on traffic lights around schools, because that's a different set of parameters. You're not just arbitrarily catching anybody at a speed limit, but they're doing it only around school districts. Since Asbury Park has so many schools, that would limit it on a number of streets going to and from 3rd Avenue, Sunset Avenue, obviously Banks Avenue. So that's something to look into, and maybe there's a loophole in the law that says blanket no speed traps with cameras at lights. Maybe there's another way around it if you say it's not about just any speed trap, but it's about schools. And as I said before, living on 4th Avenue, I see speeding school buses all the time on 4th Avenue, which just kind of like a double whammy. But going back to 1201, which a lot of us are here for, I mean, the council should be so thrilled to see so many people coming to council meetings and having an opinion about things, when for years there were 4 people stands here doing nothing. So on that, I'm impressed with my citizens and the residents in town who are also moved by this, that they all come out, and I would imagine you would be too. So when it comes to a vote and you see all these people who have different feelings about different aspects of this particular development, you might want to think twice that all of these people may not be experts in any particular field, but they're experts in their particular neighborhood. And we all know the neighborhoods well enough to know what's going to work and what obviously isn't. Whenever I speak to anybody about this situation, and I've spoken to a lot of people in a lot of different cities, the first thing they say is, wow, that doesn't make any sense. So going back on the common sense theory, something is radically wrong here. And it would be good to know you're listening to us, because you put off this vote for a number of weeks now. And it would be good to see if something could be done that addresses some of the concerns we have here, and not just say, our experts say it's okay, our experts say this is the way we're gonna do it, our experts back everything we've said up to now. So in that regard, I hope you'll all take what we're saying here and maybe consider that when you vote. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a little speed camera. Months ago.
John, can I have some
No,
information about
no.
speed cameras?
No. That you do it, it won't be part of the,
It's legislation, if anyone wants to know.
okay, thank you. Have somebody else do it for you, you can't get it twice, so whisper to somebody else and get it.
Hi, good evening, council members. Nice to see all of you. Thank you, neighbors, for being here. My name is Eric Gallo. I'm with them. First of all, I want to say that consistently, many of the neighbors who have been here to talk about the 140 Drive, including myself, support density and support affordable housing. We need more people. We need people living here here in our businesses, sending their children to school, being part of our community, joining our groups, getting involved, riding their bikes, being part of the beach. We want every person and we want every affordable unit that is in this development. However, there has been nothing done to the site design or the street design that makes sure the impact of this particular development will be as little as it can be on the current neighborhoods. I live directly next to that site. And for 40 years, I have dealt with a building that is a derelict, empty building, a methadone clinic, an office building, whatever it's in. My husband was attacked by somebody with a 2x4 breaking up a rake in the lock store. It's not something to just be good enough. This is something we get to do one time only, forever. And it is gaslighting us to suggest that it is impossible to design a site with a single driveway on a block 300 feet long and a speed limit of 25 miles an hour. And that is because we have decided it's good enough. Well, it's not. And what would be good enough is to make sure that Memorial Drive does not continue to add to the geographic divisions east to west in our town. Treating Memorial Drive like it is a bypass to Main Street, which is what the plan is doing, only further reinforces an east-west divide. It only allows drivers to maintain unsafe behavior by winding through our neighborhoods where there are no stop signs, where there are no speed cameras, where there are no bump outs, where there are no speed bumps. Nothing is making us safer about this plan. Putting the entrance on 4th Avenue will ensure that the majority of people coming in and out of the site, who live at the site that we want, who are wonderful, lovely people, we want to know them all. We need to be made safe by this plan. And the plan should end up being the best it can be, not just good enough for us to live with it. And we all deserve that as residents. We don't believe any of you are bad people or that the professionals are incompetent. None of that is what we've been saying. But we do know that there is a solution if you think about the possibility and let Memorial Drive be part of our neighborhood rather than bypass Main Street that continues to divide us.
Hello, everyone. I'm Commissioner 1100 Fifth Avenue. First thing I want to say is that running speed cameras, it is a building on the state. Holly's part of the committee involved with the state legislature. I would recommend you reach out to her. They do work, absolutely, but that's something until that's done. I just wanted to voice my concern and really my frustration and anger, I'll be honest with all due respect to the city council. For 10 years we've been coming to these meetings, and we've been talking about how bad it is in Asbury Park to walk and to ride away compared to other communities. And yes, John, enforcement is definitely one of those things. There's lack of it in this town. But there are things like Kathy mentioned, like Polly mentioned about even painting bike lanes green and making stand out, anything to the traffic calming. We've been talking about this for 10 years. The reason why I believe in miracles is because there's not been more people killed or hit in this town. There's got to be some kind of shining star in this town because it's amazing. Every time we walk, every time we ride. It's about political will. It's about priorities. And it's about don't be concerned about pissing people off. Do things that are going to save lives. You are in leadership. We elect you to make those type of tough decisions. And that is why we entrust ourselves with you. And you're going to get pushback on certain things, whether it's little traffic circles and a lot of misinformation that's going out there and gets people riled up. So I ask you, please make this a priority. The second thing I want to talk about is I'm really glad I came here tonight to listen to Tracy and Derek and the others talk about affordable housing, which started in 2017, which I wholeheartedly support. And I'll be honest with you, it's not just a moral thing, it's not just the right thing to do. Like the gentleman said, give people a chance. Let's not be myopic in our thinking. I want affordable housing for a selfish reason, and it's the reason why Polly and I moved here. Diversity. We moved here because we were told that we saw this diverse community. And it is physically impossible to maintain a diverse community without affordable housing. I saw it happen in Miami when I lived there. I saw it happen in Coconut Grove in North Beach. I saw it happen in New York City. If you don't have affordable housing, you will have a monolithic community. So anybody from Long Branch, with all due respect, we do not want pure village in Asbury Park. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Mike Sedano, Fort Avenue. We've heard over the past weeks from developers, architects, planners, transportation professionals, and traffic study experts about the viability of the plans for 1201 Memorial. They all focus on the plans as proposed. What I haven't heard from any of the professionals is the impact of a 130-unit development will have on the existing neighborhood. In the long run, isn't that the first question that should have been asked when this project was first proposed? Oh my God, 130 units on Fourth Avenue. So I asked three simple questions, and maybe you can answer them. Whose job is it to review a development and advise on the proper density of such a plan and to review its impact on the surrounding area based on guidelines for development size? For over 6 weeks, residents have brought to your attention topics we believe the development of this size will have on the community. Some of the top level points have highlighted issues of traffic, parking, design, and precedent setting. What changes to the plan are being proposed based on input from residents? And third, if you pass this tonight to go back to the planning board, what authority does the planning board have to actuate changes to the plan? And do we have to make these arguments all over again to the planning board? Thank you. If you could answer those questions.
Anybody else motion to close?
Hold on. Sorry. I thought you were going to answer the question. So Kathleen and I were 1115 for that. I want to echo a majority of everybody's concerns regarding 1201. I, however, am not in favor of increasing the density. I'm not saying I'm not in favor of the 1201 development. The density is a huge issue. And I spoke last week about the safety concerns, quality of life. So I thought deeply about what was said in this room last week, or the last meeting. There are tons of innovative ideas that need to be mined in this community. We've got Eric, who is an urban planner. We've got Polly, who's done extensive research. And to Eric's point, let's not do something that we can't undo. So let's really be judicious, be thoughtful, and come at this at all angles. This is our community, and yes, we can do better. I watched a little girl once get hit by a car on 4th Avenue because the car was speeding across and past another vehicle. I am a runner. I was got hit by a car last week. So the safety concerns are real, and we need to have a little bit more equitable input in terms of where this entrance is going to live. And it should not be on 4th Avenue, because we all acknowledge that 4th Avenue is the busiest street. It is the highest traffic. Let's not make it worse. Let's not do this, because we can do better.
Jason Cicino, 1115 Fourth Avenue. I basically want to just second what everyone said about Global One. Putting the entrance on the 4th Avenue side is obviously doubles up the traffic on that road, so there's still a difference between 4th and 5th. But I really appreciate what Mr. Cicino said about having some follow-up, some plan about like how did this even come to be? But we're all standing here wondering, is this the end? Is this really going to happen? And I literally just found out about this a week ago or so. To the extent that it was, all right, there's really going to be not enough spaces for people to park, and where are we going to have to park? What's going to happen else? And I hate that it's like that, but I do hope and have faith that in turnouts like this, and we still have another opportunity that even more people would come, and then hopefully something on your end would be done. And that's my hope. So, thank you for doing it. Right now.
Hi, Rita Moreno. Well, if you don't stop this project, there's another one right behind it on Kingsley Street. I think it's 201, 96 units, no parking, same thing, not enough parking, and the rooms look like dorms. You have to be very careful. I think you should really take out the redevelopment plan that's, I think it's over, but, and review it. If it's the one from 2002, it's 20 years old. Things have changed. And you have to look at it. You can't go by a 30-year plan. It's not right. And this, the other building that's going up is 201. I was at a meeting yesterday in this building at 10:30 in the morning, and there was at least 30 people there objecting to it. You really have to look at these things. Why don't you spend a whole meeting with the redevelopment plan and explain it to people? Now, I was here when this happened, but most of the people in this room weren't. They don't even know what really happened. And it shouldn't have happened, but it did. But I think it's 201. You should see that proposal. It's a disgrace. Everybody's coming here and grabbing a piece of land because they get a tax abatement or they get a pilot program. This has got to stop. We don't even have a good supermarket or a decent bakery to go to. Those are the things you should be working on. Forget about the housing. That will come. And by the way, there's about 596 low, moderate income. Nobody ever talks about that. Maybe they have to be renovated, which I think it's time for them to get renovated. But nobody pays attention to that. We do have those units and they could be made beautiful, but nobody talks about it. I mean, you should be working on getting us, we used to have 3 supermarkets in this town. In the AP, Grand Union, and the Academy. And there was less people. Now we don't have, we have one, I guess, I never go there, the old Grand Union. That's what you should be working on. I mean, and moderate housing. I mean, affordable housing. What is affordable housing? I hear the formulas, but they don't really make any sense because nobody does it. I know plenty of people that own property. They don't do it because it's more profitable to keep raising your rent. They don't want to be tied into a lease or anything like that. And you gotta, those are the things you gotta work on. We need more businesses on the Memorial Drive.
Finish up your thought, and then your time's up. Finish up your thought, your sentence.
Okay.
Your time's up.
I think you can change the zoning back to commercial, and you'll have a beautiful Memorial Drive, and everybody will be happy.
Thank you.
All in favor? All participation portion is now closed. We're now on to the minutes.
Let me just say a couple things, because there are a lot of new people that don't know the history.
I was gonna say.
And Rita, you're right, it should have happened, but it didn't. It happened in 2002. It happened by the previous council, and it's a signed legal document, and we did not unilaterally change it. I mean, you can ask any lawyer, you can ask anybody that sits next to you. If you have a contract, can one person break the contract? No. So can we go back and ask? Yes. Have we? Yes. Originally it was like 3,200 units. It's going to be closer to 2,000 units. It doesn't make it better or worse than anything. I'm just like trying to correct some of the numbers thrown out tonight. Again, but you're right. It should have happened, but it didn't, and we're stuck with it. and there's nothing we can do legally to overturn it. And sorry, but that's the facts.
So I'm gonna just speak for me, so if anybody's upset by this, just email me and not the rest of the council. So years ago, Derek, Tracy, and this council worked on a number of different affordable housing plans. Inclusionary zoning, which requires new development to include affordable housing. Rent control, we often didn't agree, but we fought it out and came to these conclusions. We just passed ADUs, and the reason we did that is because I think everybody in this room and us really want to see this city remain diverse. So when people came to the microphone, I gotta appreciate Eric's comments about density, and people came to the microphone and asked questions on why this project included affordable housing. Instead of us telling you, we thought we would include the community to tell you why this is important, right? Why we think affordable housing is important. So this is the first project that is under the inclusionary where's Beth? The 8 ordinances that we were on a council meeting for 9 hours of people who didn't want them. And we sort of fought through that meeting and got these inclusionary zoning ordinances. This project, and whatever I think of this project came forward 3 or 4 years ago, got a bit stalled in the pandemic. There had been some concerns about density, not Eric, but other people have had some concerns about density. And one of the ways, and Beth is going to correct me if I'm wrong, that you get affordable housing is you have to give a carrot. People don't just build affordable housing because they're in a good mood that day. And so what we do is we do density increases and pilots. And quite frankly, even with those two, we have gotten no development that has included the affordable housing. We've actually had one developer stop and then go back to what they could build by right because they did not want to do the affordable housing. So we need carrots for affordable housing. Whether you agree with this development or not, or we gave the right carrot or we didn't, just accept the fact for me that we need carrots. And those carrots come in the form of density and they come in the form of tax incentives. So this project that with whatever number of units increased because we wanted affordable housing. And with that came density and possible tax incentives to make this happen. So so I hope I answered the questions about density. So that's where that came from. Agree with it or don't agree with it. I just want you to understand our logic. That's all. You don't have to agree with our logic. Now the exit and the entrance. So we have delayed this multiple weeks. And Kathleen, you're wrong because Memorial Ave gets anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000 cars on it. And Fifth doesn't get that and Fourth doesn't get that. But Memorial Ave is basically a highway of 10,000 cars a day. So we had first our traffic guy go out and do counts. The people who rejected it, okay, no problem. It wasn't like an official report, that's fine. But he is our traffic guy. He says, I don't think Memorial's a good idea. Do Fifth. This is over the course of 3 or 4 years. Eric will correct anything that I say is wrong. And then it goes, you correct anything I say is wrong. It's a public hearing. You can talk as long as you want. I'm going to say this to the best of my recollection. James goes out. Then we have our planner, Beth, go out. We say, listen, 4th, 5th, Memorial, what do you think? Beth says, I really agree with James. I think Memorial is the least safe option. So it's strange to me that Complete Streets does it, but whatever. Then we have TNM, Jay Harsel will go out and check basically James and Beth, and he says the same thing, like Memorial is the least viable option. So let's say you don't believe any of our professionals, right? You're like, they're all idiots. I don't believe any of them. We have this independent traffic guy who's in the audience who says Memorial is the least good option of them. Really it's 4th, maybe it's 5th, but Memorial is the least good option. Is that a fair statement from your report, sir?
It is, yeah.
Okay, great. So when this moves forward, or however this moves forward, or whether this has the votes to move forward or not, I think this council is open to 4th and 5th. But I'm just going to speak for me. I am concerned about Memorial when I have 4 people who have some sort of degree beyond mine saying it's concerning to do it on Memorial. that you have 8 to 10,000 cars on that day. So I'm just describing some of our logic. I'm only speaking for me. If you object to anything I say, please don't email them, just email me. But I hope this took you through a little bit of the project that has been going on for years, where the developer has met, good or bad, with neighbors and took concerns, and it went from fifth to fourth and fifth, but Memorial remained a concern from the very beginning of this project. So that's my 2 cents.
Anybody else about this?
We're now on to the minutes, municipal council executive meeting minutes, regular minutes, and 12 meeting minutes. No seconds. Councilor Roseanne. Yes. Councilor Jackson. Yes. Councilor Cole. Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn. Yes. Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Now, the consent agenda, all matters listed on consent agenda, collectively the city council will be considered for approval with one vote. These items will be routine in nature, and there will be no individual discussion of these items. Discussion is desired by one of the council members of the future item, said item, shall be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. On consent agenda tonight, we have resolution 2024-313 through 2024-317, and 2024-343 through 2024-345. Can I have a motion for consent? Councilmember President? Yes. Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Tate? Yes. Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Now, individual resolution 2024-318, resolution approving payment bills.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember President?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-319, resolution authorizing payment for emergency sewer repairs in 1124 First Avenue. Go ahead. Councilmember President?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-320, resolution authorizing purchase of a commercial lawnmower for the Department of Public Works. Second. Councilmember President?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-321, resolution of number 1, transportation center renovation.
Second.
Councilmember President?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman? Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-322, resolution authorizing and awarding to LBW Environmental Services for lead-based paint inspection and testing services.
Move it.
Councilmember President?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-323, resolution authorizing the city of Asbury Park to execute a license agreement to permit a limited encroachment to the right-of-way area adjacent to property located at 624 Avenue relating to a particular rock retaining wall situated along the eastern side of the yard of the property in Asbury Park.
Move it.
Second. Councilmember President?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-324, resolution authorizing the execution of the employer participation agreement between the city of Asbury Park and Hospital Central Services, HCS.
Second.
Councilmember President?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-325, resolution authorizing the city of Asbury Park to participate in the inter-county mutual aid and assistance agreement with participating county law.
Yes.
Yes, Mayor.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-326, resolution authorizing service agreement with Police Management Technology. Councilmember President?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-327, resolution authorizing execution of shared services agreement with State Valley Sewage Municipal Commission to sludge disposal.
Move it.
Move second. Councilmember President?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-328, resolution authorizing funding to Community Resource Center. For the administrative resident facility assistant, community development block grant CDBG fund.
Move it.
Second. Councilmember President?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
Resolution 2024-329.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-330, resolution authorizing funding for coastal habitat for humanity to administer home repair, renovation program, community development block grant, CDBG fund. Move it. Councilmember Bez Anderson. Councilmember Chapman. Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-290, resolution approving Asbury Park Social Services listing on the Indian Resource Pilot.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson. Yes. Councilmember Chapman. Yes. Councilmember Clayton. Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-331, resolution of the mayor and city council of the Asbury Park, the city of Asbury Park, entering the subsequent developer agreement with Asbury Park LLC and APW Developer LLC for residential development on lot 4306, lots 1 through 8, 200, 210 Avenue, 211, 207 Avenue, 61 West Avenue, and referring matters of planning board for both approvals.
Move it.
Second. Councilmember Bez Anderson.
No.
Councilmember Chapman.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton. Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-333, resolution accepting donation of a Ford F-350 rescue vehicle to the fire department used to throw West Long Beach. Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton. Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-334, resolution authorizing the city of Asbury Park to execute a license agreement to permit the city to store a fire truck in the parking lot of 1012 Third Avenue, in the city of Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Move it.
Second. Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton. Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Resolution 2024-335, resolution authorizing professional service contract with Mario M. for professional architectural services for Boardwalk Restaurants.
Move it.
Second. Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton. Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Turn this over to city attorney, but federal government for the individual resolutions of liquor license agreements.
Thank you, Lisa. The next seven resolutions on the agenda, resolutions 2024-336 through 342, deal with the renewal of the liquor licenses for 7 of the licensed premises in the city of Asbury Park for the next license year starting on July 1st through June 30th of 2025. The 7 at issue are Low Dive, also known as the Break, House of Independence, Stone Pony, Johnny Max, Bond Street, the Asbury Ale House, and Port Ave. In each one of these renewal resolutions, some additional language has been included to impose new special conditions for the next license term. In all of the resolutions, there are new provisions that require new insurance and/or indemnification provisions to protect the city and to name the city as an additional insurer. And then there are some specific requirements in each one of them on a case-by-case basis that may request and require additional off-duty officers to be employed outside the licensed premises, as well as security guards within the licensed premises, video surveillance cameras, and the requirement that footage be maintained for a certain period of time, and also requirements in certain of these resolutions that require representatives of the licensee to meet with representatives of the city on a bi-weekly basis when there are large events that are anticipated that warrant the additional deployment of police presence outside of the licensed premises. So in each one of these cases, I'm going to ask when we get to that particular resolution if any representative of the licensed premises is here and would like to be heard by the council before the council takes action on the renewal of their license. So the first one is on resolution 336, deals with the Break, Low Dive, Aloha Market. Is anyone here this evening from that premises that wishes to be heard before the council takes action on the renewal of that license? So council can proceed on that one.
Thank you. Resolution 2024-336, resolution approving the 2024-2025 alcohol beverage control license for Lawn and Kitchen Company, DBA Great Low Dive, Aloha Market, in the city of Asbury Park, County Thomas.
Move it.
Second.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
The next licensed premises is the House of Independence. Is there anyone here this evening representing the House of Independence who would like to come forward and make a statement and be heard before the council before council Is there anyone here representing that premises who wishes to be heard before the council takes action on the renewal of that liquor license?
Resolution 2024-338, resolution approving 2024-2025 alcohol beverage control license for Stone Point Liquor License LLC, DBA Stone Point City of Asbury Park, County of Monmouth, State of New Jersey. Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Chang. Yes. Councilmember Wood.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
The next premises is Johnny Max. Is there anyone here representing Johnny Max who would like to be heard before the council takes action on the renewal of that liquor license this evening? And we'll represent that. The attorney representing Johnny Max has been in touch with myself and our service attorney, our team during the course of the day today. And based on those discussions, it appears there's an agreement between the parties regarding the new special conditions that are going to be imposed upon that license.
Move it.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Chang.
Yes.
Councilmember Wood. Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
And the next licensed premises is Bond Street Bar and Grill, Avalon, and Loteria. Is there anyone here representing that premises who wishes to be heard before the council takes action to renew that liquor license?
Move it.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Chang. Yes. Councilmember Wood. Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
The next licensed premises is the Asbury Ale House. I do have some emails that I would like to read to the record because I know the attorneys who represent the Ale House, Thomas Janarone and Jason Mandia, both cannot be here this evening. Before I read those emails, is anyone else here representing the Asbury Ale House who wishes to be heard before the council takes action on that liquor license? Okay, the first email from Mr. Janarone was, please be advised that I have retained special counsel for side-back liquor license. Jason Mandy, Esquire, will remain primary counsel in connection with the liquor license. However, I have been retained in connection with proposed special conditions for the 2024-2025 licensing term in general, and matters pertaining to the Asbury Ale House specifically. It is my understanding that you have given a number of other establishments until the end of September to work out the conditions. To avoid beginning this process with appeals to the state, Jason Mandy and myself respectfully request that the license be renewed, and we are afforded the same courtesy to work this out in September. I've dealt with countless noise and other issues in the city, settling exactly this type of issue over the past 26 years, and certainly we can work this out as well. In exchange for this, the Asbury Ale House will continue to not have live music or DJs at the establishment. It started not having live DJ music of any kind back in May, so any complaints about DJs since then will likely be attributed to one of the adjoining venues. This will also afford us time to examine further noise proofing of the establishment and to pinpoint exactly where and when the issues are emanating from, so they can be addressed specifically. Not allowing licensed premises to have any music whatsoever after 7 p.m. on Sundays and 11 p.m. on the other days is no different than forcing them to close on those hours. Forcing them to close will financially hurt the establishment and harm the many resident employees who rely on the establishment to make a living. Essentially, we're forcing the house to close. This is extremely harsh and should be administered as a resort. Not surprisingly, this condition will force the Asbury Ale House to fight this through the entire court system, something they do not want to do. So again, we respectfully and peacefully request to be afforded the same courtesy as the other establishments. We will be able to work this out. Thank you for your kind consideration. Second communication from Jason Mandia. Thank you for our message below. Since licensee positions being provided to the council, I want to be more concise on the issues for the licensee. Number one, in regard to the insurance request, the licensee is on a position that the requirement to insure the city for events on private property exceeds the authority granted in Title 33. As per statute, the municipal issuing authority may impose special conditions on a license which is deemed necessary and proper to accomplish the objectives of Title 33 of the New Jersey statute. Conditions may not be imposed for matters not directly related to alcohol and beverage control, such as zoning matters or to payment of property taxes. Title 33 does not require insurance as a condition of licensure, and doing so would in effect be a condition / be not authorized by law to be imposed by municipalities. Number two, even if the requirement to insure the city is permissible, coverage would be subject to carryover review and approval, as it is very questionable whether the city could be insured without an insurable interest to protect. This would appear to be similar to if the city sought for every private property owner to name the city as an additional insured on their homeowner's policy. The licensee seeks to work with the city on a reasonable resolution of this matter may not be able to provide the city with what they are seeking regarding insurance. Licensee should not be penalized if the insurance product requested by the city is not available, so any language should have a caveat that is subject to reasonable availability of such insurance coverage, ensuring the city. If the insurance requirement remains in place, then for the auto coverage sought, it should only be required if the licensee is delivering alcohol to vehicles. Licensees do not currently provide such a delivery service and have no insurable vehicles in this regard. On a side-back license, we will refer to the email from Thomas Buchanan Road, which I previously just read. Please also note that a sound test on side-back license, the ale house is being conducted on July 9th at 2 p.m. And I will indicate for the public that one of the new conditions that's being imposed on the Asbury ale house liquor license is putting into the license itself a requirement that city officials directed them as of May 3rd to stop any music performances live or music in general at the ale house after 11 p.m. on nights except for Sunday and after 7 p.m. on Sunday because of the volume of complaints that this council has received from the residents who live in the units above the ale house. We have had a meeting with representatives of the city, with representatives of the ale house and the tenants, and the parties are moving forward in good faith to try to resolve the noise issues, and I believe it is the intention of this council to reevaluate the restriction once new measures have been undertaken in order to improve the sound conditions at the premises. But for the time being, the council wishes to maintain the time restriction for the noise and the music. So with that, I'll turn it over to the council to consider the 2024-2025 license renewal with the restrictions which include the noise requirement.
Okay. Second. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Councilmember Shepard? Yes. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes.
Yes.
And the last licensed premises for tonight is Porta. And is there anyone here on behalf of Porta who wishes to be heard this evening before the council takes action on renewing their license?
Second. Councilmember Lynch?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Clayton?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
We have two additional resolutions to add to tonight's meeting. The first one is resolution 2024-346, resolution of the city of Asbury Park for the proposed amended redevelopment plan for 12 Memorial Drive, City of Asbury Park, County of Monmouth, Lot 203, Lot 5, dated June 26, 2024, in accordance with the local redevelopment housing law and JSA 48:12. Motion. Move it. Councilmember Rosales?
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes.
The second resolution we're adding tonight is resolution 2024-347, resolution expressing affordable housing needs regarding 1012 Asbury Avenue apartment project. Move it. Second. Councilmember Rosales?
Yes.
This is helping them apply for credits for their affordable housing that they're doing at 1012.
Yes.
So does somebody, just so everybody understands it before they vote, Beth? It was an add-on, so our apologies, but it was a time constraint on that.
Yeah, the developer has requested the council for resolution of need, and the resolution of need does not commit the council or the city to take any particular action. It really just expresses the fact that affordable housing at that project at 1012 Asbury Avenue is needed and desired of the city, and it facilitates their application for outside funding sources to get the project built. And the outside funding sources are necessary because that's a project that's going to include about 40 affordable housing units and then additional about 15 workforce housing units, and that's up to a total of 100 units. And so they require those outside funding sources.
Just for my clarification, it's going to be, it's affordable, so it's going to be very low, and moderate income.
Correct, and then plus on top of that, they'll also have workforce housing, but yes, for the affordable, it'll be
And I thought
30%.
I thought it was gonna have artist housing.
Yes, well, yes, the artist alley will be incorporated, but it's just, it's not part of the affordable package.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rose.
Yes.
Councilmember Shep. Yes. Councilmember Clayton. Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yep.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Thank you. Now on to ordinances for introduction.
Hold on a second. Okay, introduction, go ahead, then, after introduction, I want to ask further questions.
Ordinance 2024, ordinance amending the Main Street redevelopment plan, public hearing dated July 17, 2024.
Move it.
Councilmember Rose.
Yes. Sorry.
Councilmember Shep. Yes. Councilmember Clayton. Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes. Okay, so here's the question. So we have 4 for second reading, 1 for 12, and 1 memorial, which I think the majority of the people are here to talk about. And after that is the budget presentation. Can we do the budget first? Sure. Okay, let's do that because the staff can go home and give our question about the budget, then we can do the other things. So I think it'll be much longer.
Thank you. So we're now on to the 2024 municipal budget public hearing. CFO Joanne Booth. Provide a brief overview. Was anything for a computer? Okay, all right. Okay, motion to open up the public hearing on the 2024 municipal budget. All in favor? Public hearing on the 2024 adoption of the municipal budget is now open. Any members of the public who wish to speak, please use the microphone. State the name and address for the record. Comments may be regarding the 2024 municipal budget only. Are you gonna go? Well, you wanted to say like very briefly. Go ahead.
I think you should explain why it's so high. 59 million dollars, and then 20 that we got from the state. And that's 13 million is going to Madison Marquette. Right?
Okay, so that's a good question, so Joanne, explain that, please.
Yes, you're talking about the boardwalk restoration grant we received from the state. We received $20 million. $7 million the town's gonna use to do restoration on the boardwalk, and the $13 million is going to Madison Marquette to help reopen the Paramount and the Convention Center.
Because we got the money, we have to put it in the budget, that's why it looks high, that money was given to us by the state. But it has to be listed.
And they divided it like that?
Correct.
13 million for Madison Marquette?
Correct.
Why is that?
I don't agree with that.
All
I
right,
don't know.
all right, I just want to say, are they still in default?
On some issues, yes.
And they still get the money?
The state of New Jersey gave them the money.
I know that,
Okay.
but that's not fair. We should fight things like that. We would like you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor?
Hi, everybody. All right, so I looked at the budget, and I guess I want to ask a couple questions about process. We used to have a budget committee, as a matter of fact, Amy Quinn was on the budget committee many years ago prior to her being.
So long ago, I don't remember, Karen.
It was so long ago, you don't remember, but there was a time for citizens to participate in the budget process. So right now, what is the process of creating a budget? And other than staff and elected officials, are there citizens on the budget committee that are really sitting down and talking about different sections of the budget and learning about the budget. So that's my first question.
So the question was, were there for this year?
Say it again?
Your question is, were there for you this year, and the answer is no.
I'm asking I don't think that's happening now, right? It's not
Just
happening.
say, if you're asking about this year's budget, you're correct. The answer is no.
All right, okay. So I have when I look at this budget, there are certain things that stand out, right? And I can't, because I wasn't ready, I thought you were going to do this last. I didn't even find this. But the actual full budget was not presented at the last meeting. So should you really be giving everybody the full budget rather than the amended budget, the simple budget with the different, sections in it, like general administration, salaries and wages, police, fire, all that good stuff? Because would it be easier to get a sense of where we're putting our money, right? And one of the things that the Board of Education does, I know, one of the things the Board of Education does that makes it easier for people to understand is they put together pie charts. And those pie charts basically say how much of the budget goes toward police and fire, how much goes, the Board of Ed doesn't do that. But I'm saying what you could potentially do is telling us how much percentage of our budget goes to what area. And, and then I have a couple, I just think that it would be easier for people to understand and for people to see. And then the other thing that stood out is like when you have a budget line item for something, but then it doesn't meet that budget line item. For example, the revenues for parking, correct me if I'm wrong, I can't find it in here really quick, but they were supposed to be at like something like maybe $4 million, but they actually came in at $7.5 million for the revenues for parking. And I'm wondering, like, is that why it's taken every other week to figure it out? Or is it because, like, how is that money, that extra $3.5 million coming in? Is it coming in when I pay the fine, when I go to the court? Or is it just the actual parking fees?
It's the actual parking fees.
That's just the parking fees.
Right.
All right, so I noticed that you used the same number this year, even though we made $7.5 million this year. You still use the number of around $4 million for the next year, right? Correct?
Because that's all we need to balance against the expenditures. We're not spending $7 million of expenditures, so you don't anticipate $7 million of revenue.
Okay, so in the expenses, it looks like the major expenses in town are police and fire, right?
Correct.
Police, fire, and also
Oh, sorry.
police, fire, and, pensions. I think those are the highest.
And other benefits.
So I guess the other thing, I know that a couple of years ago when we were looking at creating a CCRB, which is someday going to be created in Asbury Park. When we were looking at doing that, we compared the cost of police to the cost of health and human services, and we looked at the percentages. And it might be really kind of interesting to do that in this budget to see how much we're using, because with health and human services, we don't really have that great a line item, right? We have like what is the entire health and human services budget versus the police and fire?
Well, it's definitely a lot less because you're talking about staffing, but I'm going to say about 6 compared to 95, 55. But when it was brought up a couple of years ago, you're right, and we did increase social services by adding 2 positions. One of them is a full-time social service director that goes out to the police for calls that don't need a police officer but need a social service worker. So those 2 positions were added, and you're right, that's because of the concerns that you just raised.
And there are some police action, maybe parking is a police action, I don't know, but there's some action, people that wear uniforms and drive cars, but they're not actually, so parking, it's the parking authority, right? And those expenses are under the parking authority, and so it's very different than police, right?
Correct.
Or are they SLEOs or those people, SLEOs?
I don't believe so. I don't believe so.
Okay, I've
That's
talked to
what
a
we
couple.
want, that it would be, if they are, they're level one.
Okay, I've talked to a couple of them, they all kind of want to move into the police, department. I guess, bottom line is, you know, they always taught me when I was going to school for public administration, they taught me that a budget is a morals document. So it should reflect who we are as people. So, the other part of it is, what do we do with the excess? Like we got a lot of money in beach badge revenue, so the beach is kind of flush, in addition to the parking being kind of flush. We're not giving any money to the Board of Education, which we could. In other communities, they do write a check. In other communities like Jersey City, they do take in a lot of money, like through the pilot programs, but they also give out a lot of money to the school system because they don't want to have that kind of a problem. There is a line item in here for you guys to do that, but you don't do that. So I'm just curious, those are the kind of questions I had a lot. I had a lot of questions. So also, is this the second reading of the budget? Will it be passed tonight?
This is the adoption of the budget.
Okay.
And to get this far, we needed state approval, which we just received, or else we couldn't do this. So they looked at our budget and said, you could do that. Legally.
And that a lot of times the excess money that we have in the beach and transportation, we are using in our general fund to help keep our tax rate down.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. And I know,
The money in the transportation utility goes to pay the bonding for the street paving.
So that's not going through your taxes either. When we do road construction, that's paid out of transportation, and that doesn't affect your tax rates either.
okay, and so like some of that parking money can cover, like building the parking lot or
Yes.
like those kind of things. I think it would be, I'm just gonna make the suggestion that you bring back the budget committee, and they have a million committees, but I think the budget committee, which you're dealing with $79 million, is probably one of the most important committees in the city. So to have, you know, a diverse group of people on it would, I think, benefit the town, you, everything. So that's all I have to say.
No, thank you. Anybody else like to, concerns, questions on this? Motion to close?
All in favor?
Before we go to the vote, let me just say something so the increase for the average house is $68 this year.
Correct.
And
That's based on 589,000 average household value.
and if you go back to when we got off of transitional aid in 2017, 2018, it was a $43 decrease, 2019, $10 increase, 2020, a $22 decrease, 2021, a $70 decrease, 2022, a flat budget. 2023, we had a $114 increase because state health benefits plan went up 23%. And that was mandated by Trenton. And it really, there was a lot of money. And then, so this year is a $68 increase. So over the span of 7 years, so 18 to 24, the municipal tax increase that anybody with a house worth $600,000 has been $110. So I got to give finance department a ton of credit. Some of the items, you're right, we may be a little bit underestimating, but you know, we've had beautiful summers for like 8 years. You're gonna have a summer where it rains every day. We don't take it $3 million. We take it $1.5 million. So we have to keep some surplus in those items. And eventually that surplus does go into the general budget. So thank you, and I for your doing. You and your staff did a great job.
Thank you, gentlemen.
May I motion to adopt the 2024 municipal order?
Move to adopt.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman. Yes. Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Thank you.
We're gonna go through all of them, and now it's always one. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do the other ones first. Whoever, but
We're now on to second reading public hearing of ordinances. Ordinance 2024-21, ordinance to the city of Asbury Park, amending and supplementing section 30-45, entitled submission of application for development of Article 4, application for development in section 30-60, titled signs, Article 5, development standards in chapter 30, land development regulations of the code of the city of Asbury Park, and record planning and redevelopment shall allow them to try to review this ordinance before we do the public hearing. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to keep this brief. This is an ordinance amending chapter 30 to amend the fees for zoning permits, sign permits, zoning compliance, and fence permits to $40 a permit.
Thank you, Michelle. We have a motion to open the public hearing of ordinance 2024-21.
Move to open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing on ordinance 2024-21 is now open. Any member of the public wishes to speak, please use the microphone.
motion to close.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing on ordinance 2024-21 is now closed. I move to adopt ordinance
Move to adopt.
2024. Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton. Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn. Yes. Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-22, ordinance approving and adopting an amendment to the CBD redevelopment plan for 614 Cookman Avenue. Planning consultant Beth McManus, could you please provide a brief overview of this ordinance before we open the public hearing?
Be happy to. This is a ordinance that would have an amendment to the CBD redevelopment plan that would permit a recording studio at the location at 614 Cookman Avenue. And so it simply amends the permitted uses to permit recording studio, and it also includes some additional requirements such as soundproofing to ensure that there is mitigation and reduced impact on the surrounding area such that no noise is going to be experienced outside of the building. And I will say also maintains retail facing Cookman Avenue. Thank you.
We have a motion for the public hearing on 2024-22. Move to open. Second. All in favor? Public hearing on ordinance 2024-22 is now open. Any member of the public wishes to speak, please use the microphone.
What is the amendment?
That's just a question.
We're adding a different use of the building than what's in the redevelopment zone, correct?
Yes.
So let the recording studio be at 614 Cookman. There's all types of sound mitigation that will not bother tenants, businesses, or anything.
Yeah, like something about the Millberries?
Yes,
That's gonna be a sound studio, right?
correct.
Oh, so this amendment does what?
That's what it does. That's to be a sound studio.
Okay.
Exactly.
I agree.
I move to close. Second. Thank you, all in favor? Public hearing on 2024-22 is now closed. May I motion to adopt ordinance 2024-22? Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman. Councilmember Clayton. Yes. Deputy Mayor Quinn. Yes. Mayor Moore.
Yes.
Now, ordinance 2024-23, ordinance of the city of Asbury Park, amending and supplementing section 30-4, title fees, chapter 30, land development regulations of the code of the city of Asbury Park. Michelle, will you provide a brief overview?
Yes, so let's see, this is a companion amendment to chapter 30 of the ordinance for fees that would permit the city to put a lien on someone's property if they have an empty escrow account or deficient escrow account and cannot pay professionals invoices.
Thank you.
Move to open.
All in favor? Public hearing on ordinance 2024-23 is now open. Any member of the public wishes to speak?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor? Public hearing on ordinance 2024-23 is now closed. May I have a motion to adopt? Councilmember Levitt? Yes. Councilmember Chapman? Yes. Councilmember Clayton? Yes. Klein? Yes. Mayor?
Yes.
Okay. Ordinance 2024-11, ordinance of the city of Asbury Park approving and adopting the development plan for property located at 12 Memorial Drive, lot 203, lot 5. May I have a motion to open the public hearing on ordinance 2024-11? All in favor? Public hearing on ordinance 2024-11 is now open. Any member of the public who wishes to speak, please use the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Your comments may be regarding ordinance 2024-11.
Good evening, everyone. Ray Rolla, working with your neighbors. I was hoping that I could get realistic time in the council for that to speak. With this redevelopment coming to Asbury Park, I would like to know if there's any looking higher than the apartments construction process. If not, I'd like to my owner and my communication to developer, hopefully we can see that live here in Asbury Park to work on this project. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. We put in language for workforce development in these projects.
But usually that's our guy for the farm.
Right. That's the guy who wrote from.
Yes, that is correct.
It's like the redevelopment plan doesn't address workforce housing, there's going to be a redevelopment agreement, local labor, I would say. Redevelopment agreement is typically inclusive of that type of language. It would be certainly done at the redevelopment.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Molly Shoga, with that. Appreciate the fact that engineers have done traffic counts and evaluated and come up with a decision or a solution that the entrance and exit for 201 should be on 4th Avenue. That is the job of traffic engineers, is to expedite the movement of vehicles. And when Amy, you asked, how complete streets, I guess meaning me, I or any other advocates for walking and biking and equitable access in the city would suggest that it would be better to have the entrance on Memorial. One reason is that it could serve as a traffic calming measure. Done well, it could be much safer. There's a car wash that only allows a right turn out of the driveway with a work sign. We're looking at livability, walkability, bikeability in the city everywhere, and making this project be part of a comprehensive plan to make Memorial Drive a livable, beginning of a livable street in the city. So I don't belabor it, but that is my opinion. Having been a walker and biker all over the city for 10 years, it's my observation, and I don't dispute the traffic counts. I don't dispute the evaluations that engineers have come up with, but it's not the same as living and functioning in a city and experiencing the need for mobility justice and the people who are living in that building as well. Enabling them to get out of their apartment and walk on the wide sidewalk without any grass and trees. So, Memorial Drive is still mine.
Thank you.
Hi, Council. Thank you so much for acknowledging that I'm discussing it. Really appreciate that. So I have no idea how long this is going to take, and without a 3-minute time limit, I'm trying to slow down.
You gotta talk into the mic too, Mark.
Okay. I will try to slow down without a 3-minute time limit. I don't know how long this will take, and I hope we can have a productive conversation. The first thing I want to say is that I will be the person, one of the people probably most.
I'm sorry. Tilt the mic up. Thank you.
How's that?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't want to get too close to it because I'm maybe a little jerky. So I will likely be one of the people most affected by this development. I will live with it for the rest of my life. And for those of you who don't know me, house that I live in now is the house that I grew up in. I learned that I might ride a bike at 12. I remember every piece was developed when it was an office building. I got my social security card in that building. I've seen it be everything. I've seen people use it as a toilet. I've seen people use it for necessary treatment as a methadone clinic. I love our town. I love everything about it. And I honestly believe we just deserve a better outcome for the people who have lived here. I've lived in that house for 40 years, every Christmas, every Thanksgiving. During the pandemic, I held my father's hand as he died in that house. This is our home, and we want more people to live. The traffic counts, they don't mean anything. The traffic counts say that at its worst, there are 250 cars in either direction in an hour. And so saying that there are 9,000 vehicles a day may be true, but the worst case scenario is 250 cars per hour going north and 250 cars per hour going south. That's what it says in the traffic data presented by our recent edition here. Living in Asbury Park, growing up in this community inspired me to love cities. What I do for a living is design and work in cities and urban planning. I have equal qualifications to the professionals who are advising me. I'm a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I work as an architect, a planner, and a designer on all sorts of projects. And I guarantee you, there is a safe way to design a driveway on a street that at its worst condition shows 250 cars moving north and 250 cars moving south in an hour. There is a street design that can support this outcome. Furthermore, the developer has spoken to me on multiple occasions about his willingness to revisit where that entrance may be. I don't think you should be asking us to choose between who gets it worse or who gets it better, or whether we divide it equally among us. We should be working to minimize the impact of that development on all of us. We can move that entrance to Memorial Drive. We can create more parking. The design of the current bike lane for Memorial Drive seems unsafe when you compare it to the option that is available, which is to have both bike lanes on the east side of the street, which is recommended by the Asbury Park Plan for Walking and Biking and the Monmouth County Mobility Plan. The legislation that created the grant that funded the, I'm going to put air quotes around, redesign of Memorial Drive specifically says references will be given to projects that conform with long-range planning documents related to transportation projects. Both our city plan and the county plan recommend putting both bike lanes on the east side of the street, yet we are not doing that. We're splitting the bike lanes, one on the east and one on the west. Meaning that the south-heading bike lane on the west side of the street will be interacting with every driveway on Memorial Drive. And all of the people parking on Memorial Drive, the new parking on Memorial Drive, will now walk across the bike lane to get to these cars. So when I take all these things together, I see that there just hasn't been a comprehensive view of how this site and the area around it should be designed to accommodate something that does have a significant increase in density. Now with that said, this may create a precedent, and the fact that you are creating a redevelopment plan here says there's a problem
with the underlying zoning. If the underlying zoning is not sufficient to induce the development we need in a predictable fashion, with the proper design controls that we need to get the things that we want out of it as a community, then we have to fix the underlying zoning. The answer is not to work with this developer and that developer and that developer and see what you have to do that sometimes, sure. But the fact that you're having to do it over and over and over again to get the outcomes that we need suggests that the underlying zoning is problematic and insufficient to give us the development that we want, need, and desire. And that the design controls in that zoning, you said it yourself, the developer walked away and did what he was allowed to do as of right, what's allowed by zoning. That's not a great outcome either. And so, even if you decide to pass this plan tonight, you should really think about the actual plan. What's the vision for Memorial Drive? It shouldn't be a bypass, which is what it's being treated like. It should be something that is as much a part of our neighborhood as any other side of this development and every other block down the street. And so, I really think that the willingness on the behalf of the developer to redesign or to rethink how the egress works in a way that is safe and recognizes what I believe has been broadly expressed by the community, and not just recently. You received a letter in 2020, I might get the dates wrong here, but you received a letter from the community the first time this plan came out, and we requested several things, some of which were recognized, which is setting the building back on 45th Avenue. But what was not recognized was that, and in that same letter, we said we would prefer the entrance to be on Memorial rather than 45th. We repeated that request the second, I can't remember how many iterations of the plan there have been, the second time, we've constantly been saying that. And so I really do think that we should be thinking more holistically about how development is happening so that things like building massing, density, parking impacts, traffic, the motion of people after they leave the site. It's not just about how they come in and out of the site, which I guarantee you can be done safely on Memorial Drive. There's a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, and it's one driveway on a street as long as a football field. I'm going to pause for a minute now, and that's how often a car would appear according to the traffic count that this man presented last week. Okay, that's at its worst condition. A car every 15 seconds. You can make a turn on a street like that. We do it routinely. It's not impossible if we design the street. And not only that, it's the progressive thing to do. Redesign the street so that it looks like the place we want it to be. That there are bump outs and bioswales to receive stormwater and big, colorful, painted crosswalks, and it feels like part of our community. The plan as it stands will distribute the impacts unequally to 4th Avenue. And the majority of people will turn right out of the development and find their way through the neighborhood, meaning that the impacts will not be felt just locally, but the entire network. And so, I don't know how much more I really need to say, but ultimately, I think there is a solution here. The developer is willing to explore how that could happen, how parking supply could be increased, and how we can still get all of that very necessary and very needed affordable housing. And how I don't have to live next to an empty dust pit anymore. And even if you pass this, I have several years of construction to live through next to this. We deserve the best outcome, not just a good outcome.
will be directly affected, being 2 blocks away from this proposed complex. One of the reasons Asbury Park works for the residents is we know how to get around. When one street is busy, you know how to move to another street that maybe isn't. I mean, we all know what Asbury looks like on 4th of July when everybody's trying to get out on Asbury Avenue because, heaven forbid, they get sidetracked into one of those other blocks. It might be a little dangerous for them. By having only one exit onto 4th Avenue, you're not helping people learn their way around. If there's an exit on 5th and people want to go east or they want to go south, they can do that on 5th. If they want to go west, they can take 4th. If they want to go east, they can take Memorial. You would pick and choose the exit that suits your needs the way all of us do when we leave our house. We don't always go on Sunset. We don't always take Asbury Avenue. We don't always leave town on Memorial because Memorial has its own set of problems. And I dare say, I can't believe there's 10,000 cars going from 4th Avenue to its terminus at the football field. It just doesn't make sense again. So it just seems to me that thinking about it as making this complex do some of the work for itself by putting these exits in different ways that people can choose which way they're going to exit their property helps them become a little bit more creative and a little more thinking and maybe spreads the wealth of all of these cars. Obviously, with less density, everything becomes lessened. And it's not the overblown 130 that all have to leave at the same time. So the traffic, even out of the unit, is going to be lessened if you had more driveway space to break that up. So again, while having only one exit seems like, for whatever reason, the best way of doing it for traffic study, it doesn't make sense not to give people the opportunity to pick which way they want to go when they leave their units. And you would have to alleviate some of the traffic that just is going to pour out onto 4th Avenue. There's still going to be traffic, obviously. People will still get out of town any way they want. But giving them an opportunity to start to figure out how to leave town and what the best streets are to leave town, you're giving everybody in the unit an opportunity to make that choice in their best interest and obviously in the best interest of the neighborhoods. So density first, and then let's spread the wealth.
Thank you. Hey everybody, Mike Savano, Board Avenue. I ran a business here in this town for 12 years. And Amy, you talk about you have to give a carrot to get what you want, okay? Well, that's great, I know all about carrots. I've given hundreds of carrots out in running, in horse trading for business, okay? But you can't ignore the impact 130 units are going to have on the neighborhood. It's just, the numbers just don't work, okay? Plus, where are they parking, all right? They're gonna be parking on 4th, 5th, Memorial, Langford, everywhere that they can park. You know what those streets look like now. So you're just going to start people circling and circling all day long for parking. I know you're in a position of between a rock and a hard place here, okay? But you really have to consider some more horse trading with the developer to reduce the density. I mean, if the traffic guy says entrances have to be where they have to be, Well, then there's too many cars. So there's too many units. So you can't tell me that the only way to get affordable housing is to have 130 units on Memorial Drive and 4th and 5th. I mean, what if you had 80 units? You're still not gonna get affordable housing. That's your carry. You gotta demand affordable housing somehow. I don't know. I'm not a developer. I'm not a traffic guy. I'm not another traffic guy. Okay? But all I am, I'm a resident. Okay, and I know what 4th Avenue is right now. And you can't even control the speeding and the traffic on 4th and 5th now. You're gonna add more cars, more people. We want more people, but you gotta watch the impact, that's all. And go back to my question. So if you guys, God forbid, you pass this tonight, what happens? It goes back to the planning board, and then is there a way to amend the plans after the planning board, or are we stuck with what we've got?
I can say it how I know.
So if the council approves the redevelopment plan, then the original version will move forward. However, council did adopt a resolution earlier to refer an amendment to the planning board regarding the potential of having an additional access, ingress and egress on the fence. And so the planning board and the local redevelopment housing law will then review it, and they have 45 days to get a recommendation back to council. And if they recommend it, then council would move forward with a new ordinance to adopt the revision to the plan that they potentially may be adopting when they start considering the ordinance after we conclude the public comments.
So there's 3 options. One is if it fails, if it doesn't
Right.
close. One is that it goes as is.
Right.
And then one is that we kept an option, it goes with a 4th and 5th evaluation by the planning board. So those are our 3 options.
We already did adopt the resolution, I believe that resolution already been passed. Correct. To refer the possibility of the 5th Avenue, additional 5th Avenue ingress and egress to the planning board, but they're not ready to report back.
Okay, but, right, but nothing is happening with the density. We're not considering lowering the density.
Well, if the project doesn't have the votes, the project dies. So there's no density to worry about.
I like
The
that.
project dies.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I would keep it much shorter. I would ask that rather than limiting it to 2 possibilities that we see, that I personally see as not great options, you allow them, you have a lot of community members saying, we know there's a way this can work on Memorial, so why just, you're essentially saying, there's no way it can work on Memorial. We all know that's not true. There is a safe way. So my suggestion is you refer to the planning, at the very least, you refer to the planning board, any of those options, or 5th or Memorial, as long as it could be made safe. Only giving us the options of 4th only, and 4th and 5th is literally asking us to say, how do we distribute the impacts among us, rather than minimizing it on all of us. And we all know that if the cars were coming in and out on Memorial Drive, that's the way to, there will never be a neighbor on Memorial Drive. There are no neighbors. Every time a car pulls out of that site, their headlights will point into the train tracks. Not to somebody's house, not to some future development. They may turn right, they may turn left, and they're gonna go where they're gonna go. But if you put them on 4th and 5th, they're all gonna turn left on 5th and speed right down 5th Avenue to wherever they're gonna go. They're gonna wind down Constantine past your house, and Bridge past your house, and Locust past your house. And that's not what you want either, right? So why not say there's a process here by which the street
could be redesigned to allow any of those options to be safely considered with public input. Now, I'm going to provide a little bit of clarity to those who are here as a member of the planning board, of which I sit on with John and Elon. If the council passes the redevelopment plan this evening, the job of the planning board is very specific. If the developer comes to the planning board with a proposal that conforms to the plan that is potentially passed tonight, the role of the planning board is to say whether or not it conforms to that plan. If it conforms to the plan, they have zero power to make changes. Zero. The city council in our city has a special power to create redevelopment plans that supersede the zoning. If you pass the redevelopment plan, the planning board's job is simply to say whether or not the proposal that the developer eventually comes forward with conforms. If it does, no changes are allowed. We routinely deal with this in waterfront and in all of the other redevelopment areas that are being presented to us. And so, at least give the planning board the ability to work with the community. And I feel like there's consensus amongst the community that we would all prefer Memorial Drive. I would want it on Fifth. They don't want it on Fourth. There's an obvious answer. There's no neighbor who's going to say, I don't want it on Memorial. Like there's nobody there. New Jersey Transit isn't going to come and say to you, maybe you should put the cars over there. It's just not going to happen. And so why would we only say there are two possibilities when we know the possibilities are endless?
Anybody else like to be heard? Motion closed.
All in favor? Public hearing on ordinance 2024-11 is now closed. May I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-11?
Executive session for.
So this goes with the amendment to look at Fourth and Fifth. That's what we go to the planning board.
Yes.
No.
Councilmember Bez Anderson.
I know what I said wrong. I know what I just said wrong. I know what I just said wrong.
So what did you say wrong?
The amendment, we already voted on Fifth. This votes it on Fourth. This plan puts it on Fourth. The amendment we already planned puts it, has the planning board decide Fourth or Fifth or both. I got it.
Roll call.
Thank you, Councilmember Bez Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Chapman.
Yes.
Councilmember Clayton.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Quinn.
Yes.
Mayor Moore.
No.
Now, there's anything else about the adjournment?